don't know. That it just all sounds very theoretical and unsafe.
All of it, everything about it is insane. Like,
yeah.
I think
was humanity just kind of like going for it?
It seemed like it. Yeah. They were just, everyone was having a good time and experimenting.
Welcome back. Good morning. Hello. Afternoon, evening.
Monday, probably.
Yeah, if not
Hopefully.
Monday, I hope you're having a great week.
Whatever day you're listening to it, hope it's a good day. Welcome back to the Random Theory Podcast.
I'm Grace.
I'm Josh.
And here we get random with super curious things.
Yeah, real random things.
Real random things. We're just two monkeys in a trench coat trying to make the world make sense.
Just talking about nonsense.
It really is nonsense, though.
It is, yeah. If you look through I was just looking through a list of episodes.
Uh-huh.
Man, we've been
all over the place.
We talked about fries, and then the next week talked about comedy.
That makes sense.
And then the week after that, ghosts.
Yep.
So
that's
we've had a real run.
We're really all over the place. We're hitting all the topics, all the big ones. Yeah. Anything that anyone is curious about. Yeah. If you have a podcast idea or topic, make sure you drop it in a rating and review.
Definitely.
Because you might be featured like one of our ratings and reviews today. Yeah, it's a big day.
Yeah. But before we get to that, how you doing?
I'm good.
How you been?
I'm good. I finally closed on an apartment in New York City.
Big news.
Big news. It's so funny because I've been teasing everywhere else, like on my Instagram, on TikTok, like there's something big coming.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the listeners to the podcast are like, I know what's happening.
Yeah, they hear all our nonsense.
Yeah, they hear all of it. And I really love our podcast community, honestly, because we have this very personal connection that I feel like no one else really has with us.
Yeah.
Because like when I'm on TKOR doing projects, I'm very much in the zone of doing a project. But here, like we get to like be free, chit chat, have fun. And so I feel like people actually get to know me more here than anywhere else.
Yeah, it's great.
It's really entertaining. So anyone in the podcast world, you know what's up. You know I'm going to New York. You know nothing is going to be changing content-wise.
Yeah,
so
nothing's really changing. But Grace is moving to New York.
Yeah. I'll be doing 3 weeks in New York, basically prepping. Josh and I will probably record podcasts.
Yeah,
separate.
We might. That I guess if you do watch the podcast on YouTube. It might change.
Yeah, it might look a little different.
It might look a little different. It might be a little Zoom call, split screeny, but the audio will still be good.
Yeah, audio
will have good
will
audio.
Be good.
But yeah, the like set
will look
change.
a little different.
Yeah,
you might get a lot more car horns.
It might be. Yeah, it might be half Grace's apartment and half my house here.
It'll be interesting. We'll see what happens.
It certainly will be interesting.
What about you? What's up with you?
I don't know, man.
You got glasses.
I did get glasses. I'm not wearing them currently because I have never had glasses, but I have a condition in my eyes, both of them, but my right eye especially, called keratoconus. Keratoconus, which maybe that's like a podcast episode.
I think it could be
like a weird eye thing. Anyway, I have bad vision in my right eye. Can't wear contacts. So they finally were like, well, try glasses. They're ridiculous. Like
I can't wait to see them. Is it like Georgia Aquarium thick?
Yeah, it is. It's like so thick, and then the left one is just like a teeny piece of glass. But I was saying I can't wear them a lot because they currently make me very sick when I wear them.
Yeah,
so
you experienced that last night.
I got it. Yeah, last night I wore them for a little too long and got very sick.
I think it could be really interesting having a conversation about that.
Yeah, I think that's an episode brewing.
I think it is.
I think there's a lot there.
Dang it, I just lost my review.
Ratings and reviews. We are reading ratings.
Let me try to get my life back together.
Grace just lost her rating and review. Hopefully I still have mine. These are from Apple Podcast. But yeah, if you want to get a shout out, head over there. You can drop a knock knock joke. We got a lot of those now.
We have several people that are leaving the emojis. So if you're an OGRT, meaning you've been around for a minute.
You've been around from the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you drop like a little flask.
Little beaker thing,
beaker
I think is what it is. It's like a little science beaker thing.
But if you have a podcast idea, you drop like basically clues to what the podcast is about. So
using
if I wanted,
emojis.
if you wanted like one about Spaceflight, wink, wink. You could do like a rocket ship with like stars.
So I have a rating here.
Okay.
From Ilobos, probably
sure.
15.
Yep.
Ilobos 15. Titled it "Joke into Topic."
Nice.
So knock knock.
Who's there?
Boo.
Boo hoo.
What's wrong? Why are you crying? The classic. Yeah.
It's always a knee slapper.
Yeah, always a knee slapper. Always
That's like
good.
Classic dad joke.
It is, yeah.
I love it.
Or like little brother joke.
Oh yeah, just trying to get on your nerves.
Totally. And they said, I think it would be cool if you guys did a podcast about why people dream. And by the way, I look up to you guys and I have loved the podcast ever since it came out and hope you're having a great day.
Oh.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That literally made my whole day.
Us.
I'm so sorry we're your role models.
Yeah, I don't know. That's really nice of you. I don't know how to feel about it.
Oh my gosh, I have goosebumps.
Yeah.
That makes me feel so special. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening. And I hope I like the idea of doing a dream podcast. That's
I really like that idea.
We should put that on the list.
Drop that one on the list because it could be a super good one. Okay, my rating and review comes from Fire and Ice 29.
Okay, and we read this before.
We did,
but it was fitting to read it again.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, hi guys, I love the podcast. My idea for a future episode is all about the history of spaceflight.
Ooh.
Hope this helps. Well, Fire and Ice 29.
Yeah.
This episode is for you.
It is all for you.
It's all about the history of spaceflight.
I said, I read that one.
Yes.
Before, and I said, yeah, I got to write that one because I'm big space guy.
Yeah. So I think it's really funny that you're like a big space guy.
Yeah.
I feel like there were two kids growing up. There were like the kids that were like so obsessed with space.
Yeah.
And then there were kids that were obsessed with dinosaurs.
Sure.
Like there's really no in between.
There were
like
two camps.
There's literally two camps. Like there's the kids that were like space is so sick, and then like I was camp dinosaurs where I was like I want to dig in the dirt and find Bo.
Yeah. So history of space flight. So humans have made huge advancements in space flight and space exploration in a relatively short amount of time. Literally like just over 60 years.
That's crazy to think about.
Just 60 years.
Like sending something into space.
Oh, yeah. And due to the 1960s space race, all of that kicked off with a huge bang.
Yeah.
Like it all happened real quick. And we're going to get into it. So there's a ton of history here.
So much.
Like,
it's dense.
The entire like space flight history is very vast. This would be a massive, long podcast. So
we'd be a space podcast.
We would be a space. Yeah, we'd be a space podcast. So I really I just scratched the surface. I just hit the big guys, the big moments.
If you think about that, sorry, I'm still hung up on the 60 years thing.
Yeah, 60 years.
Like that's crazy to process. That I mean, we looked at a rocket.
Yeah.
Like a rocket wasn't even a thing.
No, they were. I mean,
it was. They were, but it wasn't.
But not in the way that like NASA had. You know, like not in a. This is for people to travel to space.
Exactly. Yeah. Like when you think about that concept of let's strap a human to this, it's just mind-boggling to think about. That they just threw some metal together, got some rocket engineers, and we're like, we're doing this.
Yeah.
We're going to send someone to space.
To put that into perspective, so it's been 60 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So then literally just a little over 60 years before that, before the 1960 space race, was when the Wright brothers had their first airplane flight.
Dang.
So we went from, that happened December 17th, 1903. So then 60 years after that, we were putting people in space.
That's mind-bending.
And the big moments all happened in the span of like a decade, like 10 years.
Jeez.
So before getting to human spaceflight, I gotta mention where things started, and that was with the Sputnik One, which was the first satellite launched by man. It was launched on October 4th, 1957, by the former Soviet Union, and marked the beginning of the space age. So 1957 was the beginning of the space age.
All right.
The successful launch shocked the world because, hadn't really put anything in space yet.
I mean, for something to orbit around the world.
They shot something into the sky and it worked.
Stayed,
yeah. And that gave the former Soviet Union the distinction of putting the first human-made object into space.
Sure.
The word Sputnik originally meant fellow traveler, but has become synonymous with satellite in modern Russian. The pressurized sphere made of aluminum alloy had 5 primary scientific objectives. Test the method of placing an artificial satellite into Earth orbit. So just literally what they did. Yeah, just throw something up there, see what happens. Provide information on the density of the atmosphere by calculating the lifetime or its lifetime in orbit. And test radio and optical methods of orbital tracking.
Okay.
And determine the effects of radio wave propagation through the atmosphere.
That's huge.
Yeah. And then finally check principles of pressurization used on the satellites. So basically just like check all of these things regarding satellite. Yeah, like can we do it and tell us what happens to all the things when we do it.
Yeah. How long was Sputnik in orbit for? Do we know?
3 months.
Yeah. So just 3 months later, it spontaneously deorbited and fell back to Earth.
Oh gosh. Deorbited. Spontaneous.
Have you seen this thing?
Yeah. It looks like a little silver ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what I think I was expecting more of like a satellite.
A normal
look.
satellite.
Yeah. It's literally a metal ball with like 4 little like prongs coming off.
Like, yeah.
Like it's like this. If you just hold your hand out, like you're gonna grab a ball thing. But then like make your hand really tense.
It's like a claw.
Yeah.
So that was where things started.
Okay.
That was the beginning of the space age, and Russia had taken the lead. And that becomes a very big theme.
And now Americans are angry.
And now, and something happens next that makes them even angrier.
Okay.
So Russia sent the satellite, but then they did something else.
Of course they did.
So throughout the 1960s, the Soviet Union launched many test Vostok capsules to prepare for the first manned spaceflight.
Okay.
And this is where I was saying many of these test capsules had dogs in them.
Oh.
And unfortunately, some of them did not come back alive.
Poor pals.
And then on April 12th, 1961, cosmonaut Yuri A. Gagarin on board the Vostok One spacecraft became the first human in space.
I would be terrified for my life.
Yeah. Literally no one had ever done that. And this guy did it.
Listen, everyone wants to be an astronaut for some reason.
Yeah.
As a meteorologist, I am terrified of our atmosphere.
I love space, obviously.
Yeah.
Love it. Think it's so cool. Everything about it. I would not go to space.
You could not. I mean, if NASA came to me and was like, "We're gonna put you on a spacecraft," I'd be like, "Sweet."
Would you really? Because I don't think I would.
I would definitely do like the low orbit.
Okay.
I could do that. I think. I don't think I could be in space.
You're not going to the moon.
No. You could not pay me to be an astronaut, probably.
Yeah.
Now, you could put me in a hurricane hunter's plane and fly me through a hurricane.
Sure.
I'd do that in a heartbeat.
Okay.
But space, like the feeling you would have, I don't think is something I would like.
And just in a moment's notice, everything could go wrong.
Everything.
And there's nothing
around
you can do.
There's nothing you can do.
You know, we'll talk through all of this. Like I said, most of this happened in the 1960s.
Sure.
Like, we just got color television at that point.
Yeah.
And they sent humans to the moon. It blows my mind. But anyway, so 1961, Russian cosmonaut Yuri was the first human in space. The voyage began with a launch at 9:07 a.m. Moscow time, and it entailed one orbit around the Earth lasting 1 hour and 29 minutes.
Sweet.
And then he had a safe return to Earth.
How did they return him to Earth?
It would have had thrusters on board to push it back into orbit, and then he crashed into the ocean, I assume.
We hope.
I hope.
I don't know. That it just all sounds very theoretical and unsafe.
All of it, everything about it is insane. Like,
yeah,
I think
was humanity just kind of like going for it?
It seemed like it. Yeah, they were just everyone was having a good time and Experimenting.
They were, though. Everything was an experiment. I can't, I think of Wall Street in the 60s.
Sure.
I think of space in the 60s.
Good times.
You had Woodstock.
People were rock and roll.
Yeah. You had people just living in the 60s.
Wild times. Okay, so, like I said, that kicked off things in a big way. So, in response to Russia doing that, U.S. President John F. Kennedy challenged the nation, the U.S., to, quote, achieve the goal before the decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him to Earth safely. Yeah. Big goal. Just threw that out in a very famous Rice Stadium speech.
Yep.
Where he says, this is about going to the moon. It's a cool speech. But so that lit off in a big way the thing that is now known as the space race.
The space race is
on. The space race is on.
All right.
Which started in the U.S. with Project Mercury. So, Project Mercury, the first U.S. program to put humans in space, made 25 flights.
Wow.
6 of which carried astronauts between 1961 and 1963.
That is wild.
The objectives of this program were to orbit a human spacecraft around the Earth, to investigate a person's ability to function in space, and to recover both the astronaut and spacecraft safely.
Those are 3 lofty goals.
Big goals. Very important goals. And that's the whole thing, like talking about Sputnik at the beginning, and literally you'll notice through every single one of these programs, it's literally just building up to something.
Right.
Like they're like, okay, we'll try this little bit. Okay, that worked. Okay, we'll go a little bit farther.
Yeah.
Okay, that worked. It's literally just like
pushing the boundaries
to see what happens. To try and obviously their end goal here was to go to the moon, and everything was kind of building up to that. More than 2 million people from government agencies and the aerospace industry combined their skills, initiative, and experience to make the project possible. Mercury showed that humans could function for periods of up to 34 hours of weightless flight, which is since been blown out of the water.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure we send them up there for months now.
We'll get to that too. But so that was the first big U.S. mission.
Cool. This is a really cool podcast episode because, we obviously know about the history of spaceflight. You learn about it, but I never knew the project names.
The names and stuff.
Yeah.
So this is just a little tag onto the Mercury missions.
Okay.
Specifically the Freedom 7 mission, which was astronaut Alan Shepard Jr., and he was on what they called a Redstone rocket, and he became the first American in space, and that was on May 5th, 1961.
What was the separation between those?
It was literally a month, because it was in April of 1961 was when Russia went to space.
Okay.
And then...
You're telling me...
We went to space a month later.
In a month?
Yeah.
In a month?
I mean, we
got our stuff together enough to put a man in space?
We talked about this right before recording, because I was telling Grace, so I got most of this information off of nasa.gov. And it's good information, but I had to laugh that, obviously, Russia sending the first person and the first satellite to space, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Well, on the NASA website, it is literally just one sentence at the very top.
Well, you have to think at the time, socialism, or was it communism? Sorry.
Well, yeah, it was Soviet Russia.
Yeah,
and they were
communist.
Yeah.
And I think there was a severe power struggle between showing the American way of life, which was democracy, versus communism. And so I think there was a very large social struggle and political struggle going on as well.
There obviously during this time was the Cold War, which we had with the former Soviet Union. So that was just escalated. We were already in a struggle with them, but an unspoken struggle with them. And then just start trying to one up each other with space.
Exactly. Yeah, I think there was also a very large political agenda attached to this as well.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why
they threw so much money at these space programs.
And that's why you have the president in a big speech saying we're going to the moon.
Yeah, literally. That's my thing is when you pull back the curtain, everything has an agenda.
Yeah, totally. Hopefully their agenda is for good. They just have to have an agenda to do it. Anyway, so moving on from the Mercury program, next came the Gemini program. So the Gemini program primarily tested equipment and mission procedures and trained astronauts and ground crews for the future Apollo missions.
Seems important. Get everyone on the same page.
You got to get everyone on the same page because if you don't know, the Apollo missions were the ones that went to the moon. Mm-hmm. The program's main goals were to test an astronaut's ability to fly long durations, which is they have up to 14 days.
Okay.
To understand how a spacecraft could rendezvous and dock with another vehicle in orbit.
Rendezvous?
I know, right? Which was very important because that's how they went to the moon.
Yep.
Their spacecraft separated, they were in a lander, and then it reassembled back when they went back into orbit.
Forget trying to like maneuver a boat. Could
Ridiculous.
You imagine moving something
connecting
in 4D?
Two things in the blackness of space?
Yeah. Like you're not when you're driving a boat, you pretty much are like on the surface of the water.
Yeah.
Like this is 4D. Like you are moving something up, down, left, right.
It's the whole thing.
Like
yeah, it's insane that could even happen. Like how does that even
makes no sense to me.
Anyway. So, so to connect with another vehicle and then to figure out re-entry landing methods and to then just further understand the effects of longer spaceflight on astronauts. NASA selected Gemini because the word is Latin for twins, and the Gemini capsule was built for 2 people.
Oh, look at that.
So they were sending 2 people in the Gemini capsules.
Cute.
And then these were just a couple of the big ones. So Gemini 3 astronaut Gus Grissom and John Young crewed the first human Gemini flight, and that mission tested a new maneuverable spacecraft that let the astronauts actually control the spacecraft.
That's crazy.
So that was like the first one, Gemini 3, that the astronauts could actually move the spacecraft. Before it was all just like NASA and programmed in.
That's crazy.
And then Gemini 4 was the first spacewalk. So that was astronaut Ed White.
That gives me so much anxiety.
And that was in 1965. Yeah.
Wow.
I can't imagine. That's like that thing of like...
You are in the darkness.
You're in nothing. You open that door and there is nothing in front of you.
You are
and you're going to step out into that. And then the last little fact was Gemini 10, which was astronauts John Young and Mike Collins. They carried out a 3-day mission to rendezvous and dock in space with a different spacecraft that had lifted off previously. So that was testing the actual connecting in space.
That is so cool that they tested all these in little truncated pieces.
Yeah, it's really cool to me that like obviously this was all building, like I said, to the Apollo program.
Yep.
And yeah, it was just each little element that would all eventually during the Apollo program would all happen at once.
Right.
But they just tested each little thing to make sure it was perfect and possible.
Dang. If only all things were approached in this regard.
If only every bit of humanity had this much thought put into it.
Said, we're going to fix this one thing first.
You know, climate change.
And, yeah, you know.
I don't know, like something like that. All right. So the big one. This is the Apollo program.
The guy.
So, and this is the crazy fact right here. Exactly 8 years and 1 month and 26 days after President Kennedy challenged Americans to reach the moon, the Apollo 11 spaceflight achieved the goal of landing the first humans on the moon on July 20th, 1969.
Bada bing, bada boom, we done did the thing.
So 8 years is all it took to go from monkey in space to landing 2 dudes on another body in space.
It hurts my head.
Yeah. Like those guys, they were just going for it, you know?
They had no choice.
They had no choice, but it was just like everything was done on a computer with the power of like a calculator.
Literally.
And they were just strapping dudes to freaking nucnuclear bombs and shooting them into the air. Like literally. It was insane.
The people back then, I feel like, were so much smarter.
I mean,
I don't even want to say smarter, but problem solvers.
I think there was limited resources, so they had to be. Like they had to be like smart with what they could do.
What's the one movie with the 3 women? Hidden Figures?
Yeah, which I'm going to talk about too.
Oh, good. Yay.
Yeah, I got a little shout out for that.
That's one of my favorite movies.
And that's huge. Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Okay,
because
cool.
I made sure to throw that in.
Sweet.
Okay, so anyway, back to the Apollo program. So
dun, dun, dun.
Apollo 11, that was the big one. That's the one that made it. It was arguably one of the most momentous events in the 20th century space exploration. The entire mission was witnessed on television by hundreds of millions of people worldwide. At 4:17 p.m. Eastern Time, astronaut Neil Armstrong radioed, "Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed." The Eagle lunar module he and astronaut Buzz Aldrin traveled in had touched down in the Sea of Tranquility, an area selected for its level and smooth terrain. Mm-hmm. So that was, when we were talking about the two separate pieces in space. So they shot up with the two pieces connected, the rocket basically, and then the Eagle lunar lander. And then those separated, and the lander obviously went down onto the moon.
Yeah.
And then when they leave, it has to go back up and reconnect.
Yeah. Crazy.
So it landed on the moon at 4:17 p.m. And then at 10:56 p.m., Neil Armstrong stepped from the Eagle onto the moon's surface with the now famous words, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." This was an interesting fact I found. In the excitement of the moment, Armstrong skipped a word in the statement that had been previously prepared. So that statement that he said was obviously it had been written ahead of time. It was supposed to be, "That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for man." But he was so excited. He had the beach attitude.
He's like,
I gotta get out there. And he missed that word, which I feel like it's better without "one small step for man," because in that way he's talking about all of, like it's like talking about all of mankind.
I'm glad he missed the A, because
I'm too.
A man,
that feels a little like self-centered.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the big one, the Apollo program.
Dun, dun, dun.
Now there were, I really only just talked about Apollo 11 because that was obviously the big one. Yeah. There were others. There were ones after that. I don't know what it went up to, but they went to the moon. I did say the first guy that was in space during the Mercury project, Alan Shepard. He did go to the moon later on Apollo 14.
Oh, good. I'm glad he got to do that.
How about that guy, right? He was the first guy in space and then also went to the moon.
Yeah. Who is the last person to set foot on the moon?
I don't know. It's a good question.
Eugene Cernan.
Was
the last man to walk on the moon.
Where's he from?
No, he's American.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Okay. So what did it say when he went? Like what mission?
Apollo 17.
Okay. So so I guess that was probably the last one. Mm-hmm. Apollo 17, Eugene was the last guy to step on the moon.
To step foot on the moon.
And we haven't been since. So all of those were the three big space programs in the United States during the 1960 space race. And I wanted to give a special mention, and Grace brought this up, specifically to one lady. There's many. But there was one lady in particular named Katherine Johnson, who literally did not get the credit, obviously, that she was due during the time. But we would not have gone to the moon when we did without her and her teams.
Yeah.
So she was an American mathematician who calculated and analyzed the flight paths of many spacecrafts during her more than 3 decades with the U.S. space program.
It's a long time.
3 decades, yeah. Now it's we have computers for that.
That run the whole thing.
She was the computer at that time.
Yes.
She was being a computer.
She was literally the computer.
In 1961, she calculated the path for the Freedom 7 rocket, which was the first American in space.
Nice.
She worked all the way through the Gemini program and the Apollo program. She was a part of the team that calculated where and when to launch the Apollo 11 rocket. So, yeah, I mean, without her, that would not have happened when it did and might not have been successful. This is why, brief mention, but like I said, she definitely did not get, any of those women did not get the respect and recognition that they deserved.
It's a tough time to be a woman then, and a tough time to be a woman now.
Well, yeah, not much. She did receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom, but that did not happen. This was shocking. Did not happen until 2015. 2015 she received that. It just makes me
laugh. I hate that so much.
She was working in the 60s. That was her prime time working, and she did not receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
Finally, someone in 2015 was like, wait, hold on.
Oh, wait, this woman
literally got us to space.
Got us to the moon. Oh, we should probably give her For those that don't know, the Presidential Medal of Freedom is technically the highest
civilian
honor in the United States.
It's crazy.
And then NASA has now named one of their main buildings the Katherine G. Johnson Computational Research Facility.
That fits for her.
Yeah.
Passed away in the morning at 101 years old.
Wow.
She was an American hero, and her pioneering legacy will never be forgotten.
Absolutely.
She freaking crushed it.
And what was the name of the movie you mentioned? There's a movie about her.
Hidden Figures.
Hidden Figures.
If you have not watched it,
yep.
I am not a movie person.
Yeah.
I've seen this movie twice.
I've seen it. It is a good movie.
It is a powerful movie on so many different levels, from not only the oppression of women, but the oppression of women of color.
Big time. A lot of that, yeah.
Yes, how she literally was not allowed to use the bathroom in the NASA facility. She had to run across campus with her papers, calculating things to go use the bathroom.
Crazy. They are treating a woman that is doing literally the most important math.
Yes.
Like when to launch and where to launch the Apollo 11 rocket. She can't even use the bathroom in the same building as the men.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It is truly a movie that like opened up my eyes to a lot.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow.
Yeah. So if you're interested in
super great movie.
Go check. And like I said, the movie obviously gets into there's many other women.
Yep.
Like I said, she was a part of teams of women.
Yeah, she led teams.
But yeah, I mean, she was the leader of a lot of them. She was one of the main figures, so that's why I called her out.
Yeah, she was the one that basically opened the door for all these other women to step in.
To get in and be a part of these teams. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the 1960s space race.
Sweet.
After the space race, we had there was a few other things, and I didn't mention them again because I was trying to keep it brief. But the next like biggest thing was the Space Shuttle program.
Okay. Yeah.
Which I don't know if you remember. This was like part of our lives.
Yeah.
When it was still going when we were born and alive. This was the big thing about the Space Shuttle, and this is why it was like such a breakthrough, but also kind of controversial. Like a lot of people think it was kind of not good. But it was the first reusable spacecraft.
Okay.
So before, like, it was just a one time. It crashed back down to the Earth and. That was it. Like they didn't use it again. But the Space Shuttle, it landed like a plane when they came in. Yeah. Like it would land on a runway and then they could, they'd tune it up again and they could go again. Which is why, it lasted 30 years. Yeah, there was only 5 different shuttles over the span of 30 years because they just kept reusing them. Yeah.
Why'd they have a problem with that?
There was the Challenger situation, which I didn't write on here.
Yeah.
If anyone doesn't know about that, you can look it up. But there was a tragedy with the Challenger space shuttle. I guess people they might not have been the safest and most efficient or whatever. Another big thing that came during the space shuttle era was Space Shuttle Discovery deployed the Hubble Space Telescope. And that actually happened that was the first thing they did.
Oh wow.
Like they were like space shuttles, and then they took the telescope to space. Which was really cool because the space shuttle actually, it looks, if you haven't seen it, look it up. It looks like a big plane kind of. Yeah. And there's a picture of the cargo doors from like inside the shuttle, the cargo doors open and like the Hubble Space Telescope like floating out into space from it. It's really cool.
Jeez.
Yeah. And then this was interesting, when we're talking about representation. So the space shuttle program saw the first class of astronauts to contain 6 women. And it was the first to contain an African American and Asian American.
Let's go.
So,
we love that.
Wish it would have happened sooner, but at least it finally happened. And then the space shuttle led the way in scientific research and development for the International Space Station.
Very cool.
Speaking of that is the next thing I have on here. The ISS, International Space Station, which was built between 1998 and 2011. The space station has housed humans continuously since November 2nd, 2000.
That's crazy.
So there's always been at least one astronaut on the space station since November 2nd, 2000. The space station is a partnership of 15 different nations containing NASA, the European Space Agency, Canadian Space Agency, Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, and the Roscosmos, the Russian Federal Space Agency. What a name. I hope I haven't offended any of like if we have international listeners, because obviously this is all just NASA. I mean, I talked about the Russian thing at the very beginning. But yeah, I did not like dig into all the other countries.
We
and
would
find
be
out
a
what
space podcast.
It would be a space. Yeah, we would be here for hours. Yeah. So the space station, big partnership between all these nations of like, hey, we're going to do this thing. We're going to build this thing. Everyone's going to help.
So after we beat the pants off Russia, we were like, let's play nice and all create the space station together.
Okay, let's be friends. We'll do this thing. This is where I talked about when we were saying, what was it, like 14 days in space? And I was like, yeah, they've blown that out of the water.
Yeah.
Peggy Whitson holds the U.S. record for the most cumulative time in space, which is 665 days.
Dang.
That is a lot of time in space.
Wow. I wonder how her bones came back.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they have ways to exercise. They are on absolutely like controlled diets.
Yeah. I mean, it's super
everything
controlled.
is so controlled. So hopefully she didn't come back looking like a person from WALL-E.
Sure, yeah.
But it's crazy.
It's so wild to think about because, I mean, everyone's seen the video of like one astronaut doing the interview.
Yeah.
And he goes to like release his coffee cup and it just drops to the earth.
Yeah.
Because he's so used to being able to set something and it just
throwing
goes.
Something in the air, yeah.
I just think it would be a complete change of pace of life.
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
And then the last thing I had, and this just happened, was the James Webb Telescope.
Dun dun dun.
Which was pretty much the successor of the Hubble Space Telescope. And
crazy imaging.
Yeah, I mean that just happened. They've put out a couple pictures. It's insane.
They put it out and then it immediately gets hit by a meteor.
I saw that. Hilarious.
And the meteor was literally like so tiny. It was like the size of like an itty bitty tiny pebble, and it like broke it.
But the thing that is like, and with all of this, like I said, because everything was just a test building up to something. I saw the article, and then I read like I think it was on NASA somewhere, that they were like, well, yeah, we knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Like they were like, yeah, it's meant for that.
Yeah.
Like, because everyone was like, oh, it's broken, this big thing. And NASA was like, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we knew it was going to get
hit.
It
has so many panels.
Yeah, it's like, that's why there's so many panels. Because obviously they had like, well, the probability is blah, 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 that it'll be hit by a rocket or a rock in space. So.
I just think it's so funny that it's literally the most microscopic piece of a meteor.
Teeny little meteor.
It's just so funny.
Thing. Like I said, it was I hit the big things. I didn't even talk about any of the rovers.
Yeah.
Like we just...
Or SpaceX.
Didn't talk about SpaceX. I mean, obviously there's tons of other like satellites we've launched, everything. Oh, yeah. Didn't mention at all like during the space race that led to like so many scientific advancements here on Earth.
Yes.
Velcro was invented during the space race, by the way. So yeah, like if any of this is interesting to you, dive in. There's so much to learn about. Going forward, there are a few plans. I mean, obviously there's like the Elon Musk thing about going to Mars. Yeah, right. We'll see.
Sure.
But NASA has come out and said like they want to go to the moon by 2024.
Okay.
So they want to land astronauts on the lunar South Pole by 2024.
Sure.
So they are working on that. And they are developing and testing the Orion spacecraft, which is that's the next name of spacecraft for deeper space exploration. The Orion, they're planning deeper space, so that would be like going to Mars.
Yep.
But the Orion is kind of like the Mercury rocket, where like it's the first, the first one.
Little step.
They're trying it.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes, and then that'll build to the next one.
Crazy.
So yeah, that is a brief history of spaceflight.
We filled the space between years today with space.
Yeah. But like I said, if you're interested in it, dive deep, go to nasa.gov.
Get in there. You'll go down a rabbit hole real quick.
Also, like if you're from another country, I would love to hear about if you've got similar history.
Yes.
Because like I said, I really only focused on the U.S. history.
It's okay.
But so that's it.
Yeah, that's it. That's space.
Yeah, that's space, man.
Guys, if you like this podcast, leave a rating and review
on Apple Podcasts.
On Apple Pods. Yeah. Would super duper appreciate that. And if you have been here for a long time, leave that little flask
beaker
sciencey beaker thing or any kind of science thing that you feel fits your shindig, and you just put RTOG. Hop to the top of the list of getting a rating and review read.
That's true. Yeah. And if you have a podcast topic,
yes,
like this one was,
Yes.
Obviously we are making them because that's what this episode was.
Yeah,
so.
Huge shout out to Fire and Ice again.
Fire and Ice.
Yeah, I think they had some numbers on the end, but we're just gonna call you Fire and Ice.
I hope Fire and Ice that I did this one the way you wanted. I hope it was enough.
I'm sure it was.
But yeah, if you have a topic, drop it. We will absolutely make a podcast about it.
I'm super stoked. All right, I think we need to go figure out how we can build a rocket ship in the backyard and put Ray on board.
We're gonna send Ray to space.
I
think that's probably the next video.
I think so.
We have the technology now.
One step for man,
one giant leap for a dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right.
Okay. Have a great week, guys. Bye.